China is quietly positioning itself for a potentially game-changing moment in spaceflight, with not one but 3 reusable rockets poised on the launch pads and ready to challenge the global leaders. And this is the part most people miss. Whichever rocket nails the first successful landing could reshape how China, and maybe the rest of the world, thinks about low-cost access to space. China's first generation of reusable rockets is now gathered at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Centre in the country's northwest, turning the site into the focal point of an intense technological race. On the pad stand 3 very different but equally ambitious vehicles: the state-owned Long March 12A, LandSpace privately developed Jiuquan, and Space Pioneer's Tianlong 3. All 3 are being developed with one big goal in mind: to support huge low-Earth orbit internet satellite constellations and to compete globally on missions that need to be cheap, fast to turn around, and launch frequently. Long March 12A and Jiuquan are both targeting launches in December, aiming not just to reach orbit but to attempt the kind of feat that made SpaceX famous, sending their first stages back to Earth for recovery around 400 kilometers downrange. That distance means the rockets will travel far out over designated landing zones before trying to come back, a maneuver that demands precise control, robust guidance systems, and highly reliable engines. These first attempts are about more than just a single mission. They are trial runs for a new era where a rocket is no longer treated as a one-use, throwaway asset. Tianlong 3, Space Pioneer's contender, is also designed from the ground up for reuse, but its debut flight is expected to be more conservative. On its first mission, it is not likely to attempt a landing, focusing instead on validating core systems like propulsion, structural integrity, and in-flight performance. Some would argue this step-by-step approach is wiser for safety and risk control, while others might say it puts Tianlong 3 at a disadvantage in the race to claim the title of China's first successful rocket landing. Behind the scenes, the competition is not just technological but also political and institutional. A rocket engineer based in Beijing, who is familiar with the situation, has said that Long March 12's technical readiness is roughly on the same level as Jiuquan's. That means, from a purely engineering perspective, either one could plausibly become the first to pull off a landing. But here's where it gets controversial. There have reportedly been internal debates over which rocket should be granted the historic first attempt, hinting at strategic maneuvering rather than purely technical decision-making. According to this engineer, achieving China's first successful rocket landing would be an enormous milestone with national and symbolic importance. It could influence future funding flows, partnerships, and even the public reputation of the organizations involved. In that context, state-owned contractors might be tempted to use their institutional weight to go first, ensuring that such a high-profile victory stays under the banner of the traditional state sector rather than a private company. This raises a provocative question: should the honor of the first landing go to whoever is most ready, or to whoever has the most influence? LandSpace has already signaled that Jiuquan is far along in its preparations. Back in October, the company reported that the rocket had completed critical steps such as full propellant loading rehearsals and a complete duration engine test at Jiuquan, both of which are major milestones for verifying reliability and performance under realistic conditions. These kinds of tests are essential, because reusable rockets must not only fire successfully once, they need engines and structures capable of operating repeatedly after experiencing extreme forces and temperatures. However, Jiuquan's launch timeline has faced some turbulence. Its first launch was pushed back after an incident involving debris from China's Tiangong space station in early November, which led to safety-related adjustments and rescheduling. The mission was then shifted to the final weekend of the month, only to be postponed yet again for undisclosed reasons. Delays like this are common in cutting-edge aerospace projects, but they also open the door for rivals, such as Long March 12A, to potentially move ahead in the queue and seize the spotlight. While Jiuquan works through its scheduling hurdles, imagery shared by space enthusiasts on social media has shown Long March 12A being rolled out to the pad and erected in launch position. These photos suggest the rocket is gearing up for a major engine test or rehearsal, a key step before any attempt at flight or landing. Public sightings like this often trigger speculation. Is Long March 12A being quietly positioned to beat Jiuquan 3 to the punch, or is this simply part of a careful, methodical test campaign? One of the most intriguing aspects of this three-way race is what it reveals about China's evolving space ecosystem. Not long ago, large-scale rocket development was nearly the exclusive domain of state entities. Now, private firms like LandSpace and Space Pioneer are not only participating, but directly competing with state-owned programs on frontier technologies like reusability. Some observers might see this as healthy competition that accelerates innovation, while others may worry it could lead to duplication of effort or internal rivalry that slows down overall progress. Looking ahead, the stakes go far beyond bragging rights. Reusable rockets promise to lower launch costs, increase flight frequency, and make it more practical to deploy and maintain dense satellite networks for communications, navigation, and Earth observation. For China, successfully landing and reusing any of these rockets would send a strong message that it intends not just to join the global conversation on reusable launch systems, but to be one of its main authors. But here's where it gets even more contentious. If China's reusable rockets quickly reach high reliability, how might that shift the competitive landscape for companies and governments already invested in similar capabilities elsewhere? So what do you think? Should China prioritize a fair, purely technical race to the first landing, or is it inevitable that institutional influence will decide which rocket goes first? And if a private company's rocket achieves the milestone before a state-owned one, would that be a sign of progress, or a source of controversy within China's space community? Share your thoughts. Do you agree with the way this race is unfolding, or would you prefer to see a different approach?